Now, what can our personality tell us about our eyes and how well they're able to search and scan? Now, there's a study by Biggs, Clark, and Mitroff that looked at just this. Now, personality, first and foremost, entails a bunch of different traits and characteristics, and there's different measures, but specifically, we talk about the big five factor model. Now, the big five includes openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. You probably heard about a few of them, primarily extroversion. I think that's the one people think about the most when they think of personality. But when people describe it in a general sense, they're usually talking about agreeableness, meaning how well are you able to be open to others' ideas and accepting. So when people say you have a good personality, they're usually talking about being agreeable. But what we saw in the study by Biggs and his associates was people at the TSA who were searching through items such as bags that could have potentially dangerous things inside of them. They were able to see that people who are more conscientious were able to assess the things going through the scanner more effectively. Now, what is conscientiousness? So, people who are conscientious have a more likeliness to be perfectionists. They're more detail oriented. They're going to follow through and be diligent. And this is why there is a high correlation with people who do well on visual search, because if you're more detail oriented, you're going to be more attentive. And when it comes to cognitive performance, and especially visual training, you need to be attentive and be able to track what you're seeing. And if you can have a longer focus mentally as well as visually, you're going to tend to do better on things that require that. Now, what I look at it as, how are we able to use personality as a general sense of just seeing who's someone we should select for our team? So it could be used in that measure. So, like the TSA, they could use it as a way to screen for employees. But look at that from your performance, whether you work with athletes, military, law enforcement, corporate wellness, the list can really go on. Who are the people who are more diligent? It doesn't just mean they're good at following through on tasks, but they'll be able to put their mind to something from an external output. Because when we talk about how we process information, someone can encode and take in information more effectively is the one who's probably going to give me a better output as a worker or an athlete or whatever it may be. So that's why when we talk about personality, it should go beyond just what type of person they are. We need to make some practical application of personality and how it can look in the actual performance setting. Now, one of the cool things that we do at Mind by the One, our business is primed on making the intangible tangible, and personality is something we study a lot. But how do we put this into action? Now, we have our app Grids, which is available free for download, and I'll put the link down below. You can use different training tasks that helps with visual search, but also can help you with the other skills that we mentioned in the personality traits that we just described. Now, I'm going to do this task in real time so we can see how well I perform, and I'm going to go through the different tasks and how they measure up to what we're trying to accomplish with the visual search as seen in the study. Now, the first drill we're going to do is a 5x5 sprint. So this is just 25 numbers scrambled out of order. We're going to do them as fast as possible. Ready? I'll put it on the screen right here. All right. So on the first screen, I'll go over this real quick. I have performance ratings, which I can rate how stressed I felt in the moment, high or low. So I'll just leave it around a little bit over the middle. Self-talk. So was I saying things unproductive in my head or out loud? Was I saying productive things or thoughts controlled? I wasn't really thinking about much but the task at hand. So thoughts controlled. And then focus. Was I locked in or not? I'll say a little under 10 because I was thinking about some other stuff. Now, on the screen, you see my results. We're going to look mostly at the time elapsed, meaning how long did it take me to finish? And it took me 14.9 seconds. So what we can do is that's how fast it took me with just do I finish? Now, if I know it took me 14.9 seconds, I can go to another feature where I'll do the 25 numbers, but I'm going to give myself 15 seconds. So it's about the same amount of time it took me to finish. Now, with the time restraint, this adds more stress. And can I track and scan as effectively and get all 25 in the same amount of time it took me when I was just to complete? Now, even though it seems like the same task, it's a little bit different because if I stumble a little bit and I see that time ticking at the bottom of the screen, might make me mess up more. But that's the goal. Can I adapt and keep scanning appropriately? Ready? Go. And I just made it. I felt a little more stressed on that one for sure. Self-talk was pretty good. I still wasn't in my head and focus. I was locked in because there's things going on outside that it was distracting me, and I still locked in. All right, so I did it in 14.4 seconds. So I was about almost a half a second faster. So I actually did better. So you can see that added stress didn't affect me too much and I actually performed better. So that's why it's cool because I had to scan and search. And as you saw in real time as I'm trying to find it, my eyes were looking at the screen, but you can see on the screen where I was pressing. So this is a great way to warm up the eyes, but also induce that stress too. Because when you're doing the job, especially like they mentioned in the study with TSA, you have to be able to switch that off. Now, this next task we'll do, it takes the same premise, but we're gonna have 100 numbers on the screen because they're gonna be smaller boxes, more to look at, more to focus, and the timer is gonna be at 1 minute, but we're not gonna show the whole minute, but you can put it up to 5 minutes, or you can put it up to completion when you finish all 100. That could take, I've seen as quick as 4.5 minutes and as slow as about 11, 12 minutes. So you can think about that focus and attention being locked in. So that's something like visual and mental endurance. So that's why this is important too, because think about going back to the article, those TSA agents have to look at these things all day for multiple hours at a time. So you have strong eyes that can focus and lock in from the muscle of the actual eyes, but also with the ability to mentally focus. So as you can see, there's a timer at 1 minute. Now there's a lot more numbers to find. So more to scan. It's easier to get lost in it. So you can see I'm obviously multitasking, explaining the drill, but there we go. So you can see how this can be more frustrating from a mental stress standpoint, also being locked in for a whole minute. And if you do the longer duration or even to completion, you can see how much energy it would take. Now, this last one we're going to do is the stress grid. Now, this is going to have, once again, 10 by 10, but it's going to have circles on four corners, left, right, bottom, and top. So every few seconds, one of those circles will turn green, and I have to press it to make it go away because I cannot go to the next number until I deactivate it. Meaning, I have to always be focused on switching my attention. And as you see, you've been to the airport. We're going to keep going with this analogy. As the bags are constantly going, you're switching attention to checking it, talking to someone in front of you, making sure the other bag's going through, making sure you stop it, keep it going. You got to switch your attention a lot. And that's what this drill does. So this is a perfect example because we talk about conscientiousness. You got to be mindful of how you focus and switch that attention because you're doing different tasks within the same duration. So we'll start this one. Oh, yeah. And to mention too, if you go through the whole thing, what you do the whole thing so you can see, there's noise that distracts you every few seconds too to make it even more stressful. So you see, I got to be attentive. You might find something, be ready to hit it, and then the circle comes up, and now you got to change your attention back. So I'll skip through the ratings, but you can see that took a lot more focus, and I got thrown off quite a bit. So I got 12 numbers and 18 circles. It's a lot of circles, but not a lot of numbers. I usually get between 15 to 18, sometimes 20. But in this case, I was a little distracted. But you can see how this carries over because someone who's less on conscientiousness is probably just going to go into it, no really plan, no strategy. And tasks like this, even though they seem so minute, you want to kind of have a strategy on how you're going to attack it, how many you're looking for at a time. Me personally, I look for 2 to 3 at a time. So I'm not just finding just one, just two, just two. I'm looking for one, two, and three. So when I do find at least one of the three, I know where to go next. That's how I do it. It helps a lot. But the trade-off is more cognitive load on that task. So if I overwhelm myself with thinking about two, three numbers at a time, it might take away from me searching in the first place. So consciousness, just like in the personality trait, can be a double-edged sword because think about when I mentioned perfectionist, people are too much of a perfectionist. They tend to sometimes overdo it. And when things go wrong, think about how mental toughness and resilience is. You can't always have it your way. This isn't Burger King. So you got to make sure you have that trade-off. And that's the beauty of these types of applied mental training tasks. You can integrate where the mindset or the personality skills come in and trade it off with actual performance visually and cognitively because that's what it truly takes. There's no one or the other. That's why Mind by the One's premise is based off of integrating and being multidisciplinary, because that's literally what performance is. So, once again, if you're interested in the Grizz app, it's completely free on our site, mb1grizz.com. I'll put the direct link below in the description. So, if you have any other questions, make sure you leave a comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, get your mind right.